Thumbs up. Awesome. Okay. So welcome to Data Empowerment, a hybrid approach to meeting business demands. I'm COLM. Pleasure to meet you all. That's me. That's a professional photo wearing the same shirt as I'm wearing today. That's a bit embarrassing. I'm with ACTIAN. Hands up who's heard of ACTIAN before today. 3 people who work at ACTIAN. So that's the normal response. We're on a mission to change that though, so remember the name. We do data management and data integration software for on-prem and the cloud. That's what we do. I'm in customer success, so my job is basically be a consigliere for the customer and make sure all the problems are solved, make sure all the questions are answered. Before that, I had 8 years in engineering. I was a data engineer. After 8 years, I realized I hated it, so I got into this. But that's my background. So, what's the message today? Cloud isn't always the answer to our data challenges. Often, hybrid is. And by hybrid, I mean a mix of cloud and on-prem. So, it just seems as if the narrative has been, okay, we've all come from on-prem in the past. Then cloud came as an option, offering unlimited flexibility, huge cost savings, lol, and we all, as a herd, just kind of went towards cloud as fast as we could. And it hasn't worked for everyone. And my message today is maybe cloud isn't the best place for us all to be today. Maybe a mix of cloud and on-prem is. What's my goal? My goal is that everyone leaves this hall, it's not a room, it's a hall today, at least curious about the potential of hybrid, so a cloud and on-prem solution to solve your data problems. So the agenda. We'll talk about the data landscape as I see it from a high level. We'll talk about the opportunities that are kind of exist in your business's data and the challenges that come up when you try and take advantage of those opportunities. We'll then talk about the options from the highest possible level for taking advantage of those opportunities. And then after we look at those options and we look at the pros and cons of the 2 options, because there's 2, we'll think, okay, what's the answer? Which of those is the right answer? And spoiler alert, it's something to do with hybrid. You'll have guessed. Okay. So the data landscape. First thing is, we all know that there's been an exponential growth in the amount of data in the world in general. But there's also been an exponential growth in the amount of real-time data use cases. Not everyone knows that, but that's what the trends and the data shows. So there's an exponentially growing need for real-time data in the world today. And that's driven by us, everyone here in the room, using social media, video streaming services, taxi apps, delivery apps, and price comparison sites like comparethemarket.com and gocompare.com. Hands up, who knows what they are? Yeah, pretty much everyone. So one of our customers at ACTIAN is the AA. And they have a real-time use case, which is sending quotes to these price comparison sites like comparethemarket.com. So it turns out that when you're a provider, like a car insurance provider, like the AA, getting your personalized quote listed at the top of the list of results on the price comparison site is a speed game. So if you want your result, your quote, to be at the top of the list, and you do, because nobody clicks on the list at the bottom, on the result at the bottom of a list on the internet, right? If you want your result to be at the top, then you need to return your personalized quote super fast to the price comparison site. So that is a real-time use case for the AA. So they return these personalized quotes in sub-second time to the AA, to the price comparison sites. And they use our on-prem software to do that because, as I'll explain in more detail later on-prem, by definition, necessarily, the fastest on-prem deployments are faster than the fastest cloud deployments. I'm not sure is that news to everybody, but that's a fact. And that's one of the main messages of this talk today. So that's a real-time use case they have. They have a separate non-real-time use case, which is just providing internal ad hoc analytics reporting and ad hoc analytics queries for business users within the AA. And that doesn't require real-time data. So for that, they use the same ACTIAN software, but on the cloud, because they don't need blinding speed So they might as well take advantage of cloud's flexibility. So there's a trend of real-time use cases, but still not all use cases are real-time. But the trend is clear. There's an exponentially growing number of real-time use cases, and we need to keep that in mind. Next thing. Hands up who recognizes this infographic, has seen something like this. Okay, yeah, 2 people. So you can't read it, but that's kind of like the point. So this is some consultant's survey of all the tools that are out there in the market for doing data engineering or data reporting or data science, and it's overwhelming. There's just a vast amount. So people's organizations' tech stacks for doing data just becomes this overwhelming, unsustainable mess. That's the next point about the data landscape. Next, getting data from A to B, all these years later after we started doing data, is still hard for all these reasons. And the thing is, even after you overcome all these challenges and build a pipeline that works, your pipeline is likely still going to be brittle and it's still going to be non-portable. So if you build it on AWS, you're not going to be able to just lift it up and put it onto Azure, right? That's not easy. It's not really realistic. Okay, so that's the data landscape. A growing need for real-time data, but not all use cases are real-time still. There's a proliferation of tooling. Getting data from A to B is still hard. So now let's look at the opportunities in our data and the challenges that arise when we try and take advantage of those opportunities. So from a high level, there's 2 business data opportunities that I see. Monetizing data, like with the AA, we saw sending personalized quotes to price comparison sites to drive revenue. So they're monetizing their data. The second type of business data opportunity is using your data to make better decisions in-house. And that's the other opportunity we saw from, the other use case we saw from the AA of supporting internal decision making. So that's the 2 type of opportunity from a high level. We're all in data. We all know that for every opportunity, there's probably 100 challenges. So do we go to the cloud or not? Once you make that decision, what should our architecture look like? Are there performance and regulatory issues around data locality? Is there a risk of cloud vendor lock-in? So whereby you build all your stuff on AWS, and then they jack up their prices, and then what do? You're kind of stuck. You can't just lift all your stuff over to Azure. AWS have you buy the proverbials. You have to pay what they're asking, and you're kind of done. And then proliferation of tooling, as we saw. And this trend for this exponential growth of real-time use cases raises lots of questions, difficult questions. What is real-time data for us? Is it sub-second? Is it sub-millisecond? Do we need real-time data all the time? Are all our use cases real-time, or are some of them non-real-time? Do we need real-time data 24/7? And so even after we answer those questions, and we're happy that we've optimized our estate for, optimize some of it for real time, some of it for flexibility in the cloud, so we don't need blinding speed. You have to think about the future, and that trend comes back into it. We have to future-proof our business, or think about future-proofing our business against those future real-time needs, and that's hard. These are kind of painful, thorny questions that have to be answered. And how long will that strategy be good for? Like, how much confidence do we have in our predictions? A lot of difficult questions to be answered. Can everyone still hear me, by the way? It's getting louder? Yeah? Awesome. Okay, so there are the opportunities and the challenges. What are our options? From the highest possible level, there's 2. There's cloud and on-prem. And by cloud, I mean a public cloud provider like AWS, Azure, or GCP. By on-prem, I mean networks and servers that you control, right? So you have complete control over them. Cloud and on-prem have their pros and cons. So let's look at them. So the pros and cons of cloud, we're missing the word cloud off this slide, but pros and cons of cloud. Cloud is flexible, right? You can scale easily, you can fire servers up and down easily, you can pay as you go. It's a managed service, you don't have to have those that infrastructure talent in-house, they manage the infrastructure for you. And they give you that suite of tools to build things on top of their platform, like integration tools for building pipelines. On the con side, you don't always have complete control over the locality and security of your data. You can get locked into a vendor. And very importantly, in this world of exponentially growing real-time use cases, it can't possibly be as quick as the quickest on-prem deployment, for reasons which we'll see on the next slide. So, these are the on-prem pros and cons. On-prem is fast. For the second reason, because you have complete control over your networks and your servers. So you can customize and optimize these networks and servers completely for your use case, right? You can't do that on the cloud, because the cloud has to be generalizable for a whole universe of use cases. So the cloud is flexible, really flexible. It's not fast. So speed and flexibility are kind of in tension, right? You can't have both. On-prem is fast, and it's really good for real-time use cases. Cloud is flexible, and it has the other benefits like managed service, etc. Another con of on-prem is that, of course, it takes capex, affects your cash flow, and cash flow is king in business. So, cloud and on-prem have pros and cons. So which is better? What's the answer? It's something to do with hybrid, right? You won't be surprised to hear. And not only hybrid, a hybrid multi-cloud platform. Hybrid, so you can take advantage of on-prem speed for the real-time use cases. Cloud, so you can take advantage of flexibility when you don't need blinding speed. A platform, because what if you can have on-prem and cloud databases in the one platform with integration tools that are also native to that platform, which work just as well with the on-prem databases and the cloud databases. And what if those databases and integration tools could sit on either Azure, GCP, or AWS? That'd be pretty nice, because then, okay, you're now locked into this multi-cloud platform, this hybrid platform, but then if you're not unhappy with the underlying AWS or Azure or GCP architecture, you can lift and shift quite easily. So you've mitigated some of that risk of cloud vendor lock-in. Remember the main message from the start of the talk? Cloud isn't always the answer to our data challenges. I said often a hybrid is, I'm going to extend that to say a hybrid multi-cloud platform is, so you can take advantage of speed for real time. You're future-proofing your data estate for these future real-time use cases. But also you're on the cloud, so we still want to go to the cloud probably. So you're ready for that. And you have more control over your costs because you're not locked into a single cloud vendor. And you can also take some advantage of cloud's flexibility, pay-as-you-go, etc. So I mentioned the AA earlier on. One of our customers, this is their actual architecture. And by the way, Jack from the AA is giving a talk tomorrow at 11:20, which is going to go into this in much more detail. Super interesting guy, super smart. Go to the talk and say hello to Jack after, he's great. But this is what the AA have. They have the real-time use case here, supported by an on-prem deployment of ACTIAN's vector columnar analytics warehouse for blinding speed. On the other side, to serve the non-real-time, just internal reporting use case, they have the same columnar database, but on the cloud. And then the bottom, I'm not sure if you can see it, here, data flow. It's one of ACTIAN's two integration tools that they use for ELT into the cloud warehouse. And they've actually chosen to deploy that on-prem for speed. They want that ELT to be as fast as possible. But they could just as easily have deployed that on the cloud as well. But go see Jack tomorrow. He's great. So the AA, they have like what I call a dual hybrid architecture. The on-prem and the cloud parts are separate. The next evolution is of a hybrid architecture is this. It's like, imagine you could have your on-prem data here, cloud data here, and a single app that sat on top, which could read from either the, I can't remember which side is which, but can read from either on-prem or cloud or both from the single application, depending on what permissions you have as a user. So that's the next evolution of a hybrid architecture. We don't support that yet at ACTIAN, but we're working on it. Okay, so as I mentioned, Dr. Jack, super smart guy, talking tomorrow about the AA's use case in more detail. ACTIAN's Chief Marketing Officer, JJ, is giving a talk, De-risking your data analytics cloud journey, tomorrow, 1:20. That should be fun as well. And I haven't mentioned yet, but you probably guessed, ACTIAN do a hybrid multi-cloud platform. So if I've fulfilled my goal, and I've made you at least curious about the potential of a hybrid architecture to solve your data problems, we have a booth 606. It's just to the right of the main. Oh, just to the right. Thanks, Pete. Just to the right of the main entrance as you come in. Come and speak to my colleagues. If you have questions, they're very knowledgeable, very friendly, really nice people. We also have gin from 5 to 6, I believe, if you like gin. And I think we have snacks and smoothies as well, if you're not a gin person or you're a teetotaler. Let me think, what am I missing? Oh yeah, add me on LinkedIn, grow my network. I just wanted to take the opportunity to use my picture, pay good money for it. At my previous job, I'd only interacted with my teammates for months by Teams, and then when I met them in person for the first time, they said I catfished them because I don't look nearly as good as my picture in real life. But I have a good picture, so that's a win. Okay, we have time for questions if there's questions.